I moved out of the country, and that helped a lot because she had to call me to try to control me or tell me how awful I am. I recommend that for people going through an abusive mother. Just move to a different country.
Hello, you are listening to NPE Stories. This is a podcast where NPEs can share their story. I am your host, Lily, and I found out I was an NPE through an ancestry DNA test that changed my life forever. NPE is a term that stands for Not Parent Expected or Non-Paternal Event. This means that one or more of our parents are not who we believe them to be. NPE Stories is a podcast where NPEs can share their story of what their original family was like, how they found out they were an NPE, and what their journey has been like since the day they found out. And welcome to episode 212. And yesterday, I'm recording this on February 4th, but on February 3rd, we had an early release of our article in the American Journal of Human Genetics. And I'm so proud of this. I am a co-author on an article called Misattributed Paternity Discovery, a critique of medical organizations' recommendations. Our lead author is Richard Wenzel. He has been on this show a couple of times. I've known him for years. He is an incredibly talented writer and pharmacist. He's an NPE. And he invited me, Gina Daniel, Jody Gerard, and Eve Sturgis to write this article with him. All of us are NPEs. Two of us had pediatricians in our youth that were part of our paternity deception. So we critique 4 different medical organizations and their recommendations and their policy statements regarding family medical histories and how do they disclose or non-disclose when they run across paternity differences, especially if our mothers were to, say, admit this to them during one of our childhood wellness visits. I currently have a free access to this article for the next couple of months. I put it on the NPE Stories Facebook page, as well as the NPE Stories Instagram page. And I would love to send anyone a PDF version of this article. It is incredibly long. If anyone wants to email npestories@gmail.com and write link in the subject or link in the body, I will send you a PDF version of this article. It's also available online for the next couple of months at the American Journal of Human Genetics. Thank you so much, Richard, for inviting me to be part of this article. We're going to have him on as a guest host very soon to discuss this more. This morning, I was reading an NPE memoir. It will be out in the next couple of months, so I probably shouldn't say the name of the title yet. But I was reading the part where this particular NPE finds out about his DNA truth. It's that moment when he gets a phone call from a relative who they find out their relation is not what they thought it was after they compare their DNA tests. And my mind just went backwards to the day that I found out 6 years ago and how incredibly overwhelming it was, how shocking it was. I was going through denial, maybe a little bit of excitement, confusion. And I know that some of you listening right now have just found out you are an NPE. And the feelings you are going through are completely normal and completely valid. This podcast does not give advice, but we share our stories. And through our stories, we have our experiences. So you may get some ideas on how to handle your DNA journey. Perhaps how to reach out to another family member, how to handle rejection, coping mechanisms, so many different experiences. So welcome if you are a new listener. I just saw we had a bunch more new downloads, so I know we have some new NPEs listening. Welcome. We're going to get into our NPE story today. Today I am speaking with Amy S. Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Thank you so much for setting time aside and doing this with me today.
Thank you.
You reached out to my website, so I was a little slow to get around to you. Sorry, it was probably about a year-long wait.
That's all right.
When did you find out?
I found out in January 23.
Ooh.
Yeah,
You're a newer one.
I guess I am. Yeah.
I mean, just because I normally have about a year-long list, so and well, I guess it's 2025 now. So, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's find out about Amy. Why don't you start telling me about your family of origin? So, who was in the family you were raised with?
I was the daughter of two working class French Canadian descendants in a small working class city in New England. I have four siblings, two sisters and two brothers. They grew up in a 1950s ranch style house and had the little 1950s everything, not rich, definitely not rich, but had that little picture of the burbs in the 1950s and two of each and all that. And then I was born 6 years after my brother, 13 years after my oldest sibling, and we had to move because I was born. We just couldn't cram any more kids in that ranch. So off we went to this drafty old barn of a place in the same city, not too far away, actually. But everybody hated that house and everybody blamed me for being born
Oh,
and having to leave the 50s. Kind of. My mother came from a tiny family, and my father came from a massive family who had had a lot of generational trauma, a lot of children lost through childhood diseases and terrible accidents. And that had been several generations. I found that out by doing my family tree. My mother was a an angry, harsh, hard person. I now know that she was almost certainly a narcissist in the real definition, not the one that everybody uses all the time. My father was extremely quiet, kind of shy, nervous person. She yelled a lot and he drank a lot. I don't really remember that. I just know that from everybody else because when I was 5, he moved out, probably kicked out, and I really didn't see him again. I think I saw him once or twice after that. He took my brothers, though. He would come to the house and take my brothers for the weekend, which was devastating for me because I worshiped the man. I was absolutely daddy's little girl, just stuck to him like Velcro. And he used to play with me and he was cuddly and quite clearly just, I was his favorite human on earth. That's how it always seemed to me, and vice versa. And then one day it was just over and he was out and gone. But he was available for my brothers. And that, that was awful. My sisters were out of the house already. They were adults by then. So when my brothers were taken for the weekend, I was alone with my mother, the sort of rage bomb. And I knew that I was in trouble. I was in deep trouble because she had no audience anymore and she could take it all out on me, and she did. It was not physically abusive, not really, a little, but not really sort of, I don't know, beating me or anything like that. But it was just constant emotional abuse. He got really ill and was in the hospital where I couldn't see him, but my siblings could. That was another thing that really distanced me from them. And then he was moved to a hospital in Boston for surgery, and he died. He died the next day. He hemorrhaged and died very suddenly, absolutely unexpected. It wasn't the kind of surgery that should have caused anything of the sort, but it did. And he was even more gone than he had been. My mother was angry about his death. They had already divorced, so she wasn't in charge of his medical stuff, and she wasn't in charge of his funeral, and that made her mad. She said things like, almost like he had the bad taste to die after the divorce, where she would have been a widow if he had had better taste. She literally said that. One of my sisters, got kicked out of the wake for crying.
Mm.
She was 19. So this is the kind of hardness I'm talking about. I certainly wasn't allowed to cry. It was quite clear from the time he moved out until she died, an elderly woman, that we were not to discuss him. He had never existed. We weren't to mention his name. We could mention it every, say, maybe, I don't know, 5 years or so, as long as we pointed out that he was a drunk and useless. Otherwise, he didn't exist. Nothing of his ever came back into the house. We didn't inherit anything. There was not much to inherit, but things like his watch, one of my brothers didn't get his watch or his wedding ring or anything like that. She even got rid of the flag that had been draped on his casket at the funeral. Basically, she deleted him. She erased him. After that, I was in survival mode, really, because of what she was like. I was treated differently. She was not nice and fluffy to anybody ever, but she was different to me. In retrospect, now that I know what I know, I think she was angry. I think she saw her 4 kids and her duty as a mother being done soon. And then she was pregnant with me. And she told me that once, actually. She said, when I found out I was pregnant with you, I realized I was stuck, which didn't feel good to hear. But that's what it was like. My brothers aged out and ran screaming out of the house, hit 18 and just left. And I was left alone with her for good. And it was very difficult. When I got to be about 10-ish, she started acting differently, worse. And she was always threatening to send me away. Send me away to the youth detention center in our city, which is just now going through some court cases for really hideous abuse. So she was trying to send me there. They wouldn't have taken me. I wasn't a criminal. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't getting bad grades. I wasn't talking back. I wasn't doing anything. But she wanted me to go there. She threatened to send me to one of those places. She kept saying, it's really the kind of places that Drew Barrymore and Paris Hilton talked about fairly recently. Those places in the desert where men come in the middle of the night and, with your mother's consent, kidnap you and drag you there and lock you in. And that's what she wanted. Because I was wrong. I was just wrong all the time. And then that didn't work. She couldn't figure out how to send me to the desert, I guess. So she started to lean in that there was something wrong with my brain, that I wasn't, I don't know, developing correctly mentally, that I was just wrong, that there was something wrong with my intellect. And she had me tested one day. She just said, get in the car, and off we went. And we got to this weird place and they started to test me. And I shut right down. because I wasn't about to participate in whatever this was. And there was silence on the way home. She never explained what was happening, but I figured it out. And I waited and waited. I would think I was 13 then. I waited for the results, and they never came. There wasn't a day where she said, well, I guess you're fine and you have to stay, or, pack your bags, you're going to wherever. It just never happened. And I was left waiting. And that was the first time I ever thought that I shouldn't be here on the planet, that I should somehow end myself. So at 13 was the first time I thought, that was the only time I've thought that, because there's proof. There's proof out there. She's going to find proof that I'm wrong and I must go. And nothing of the sort had happened to my siblings. So it was me. She was always saying I was her other family, which makes sense now. But back then, the only difference I could see between me and my siblings was her treatment of me and our age difference. But the age difference was the reason for everything, as far as she ever said. I got a little bit of tiny bit of freedom. I stole it. Really, I stole my freedom when I was a teenager. I started to sneak around and stuff. I was still not doing anything really interesting, but I got by her super control. And I started to have a little bit of a life in high school. And when I was 17, I basically chewed my own arm off and get out of that trap. And the abuse stopped, but she always tried to control everything, everybody. So it didn't really end until she passed in 2007. I moved out of the country, and that helped a lot. I lived overseas for 17 years, and that really was the best thing I ever did, because she had to call me to try to control me or tell me how awful I am. And she just didn't do that constantly. It was excellent. I recommend that for people going through an abusive mother. Just move to a different country. So I moved back to the United States in 2011 and started to just make a new life here. I got remarried, and it's been a little bit difficult with my siblings. They are a lot like her, and there's a lot of competition. And when I was little and my dad was paying so much attention to me, it used to make them really angry. And my sister just said this to me recently, that he would come home and pay attention only to me for like an hour, hour and a half, and play with me or whatever. And they didn't like it, and they hated me for it, she said, and would punish me later. So they were just as bad as my mother back then. And they would get me in trouble. They would yank on my braids. They would mock me for not knowing something. I'm talking about being like a 4-year-old, and people are making fun of me, for not knowing something. And they would never tell me anything. So how would I know anything? They were pretty rotten, actually. And that my other sister said recently, we were really mean to you. I'm like, yeah, you were, actually. And it would be nice if that ever stopped. It hasn't. They're just a very competitive, harsh bunch. The apple didn't fall far from the tree on that one. We're okay. We're together at Christmas, but we won't do it again till Christmas. That's about it. So it was a little bit of a shock when I got back to the United States, and they were still themselves, even though she was gone. Then I decided, for no reason I can really recall, to take a DNA test. It sounded like fun, as it's marketed, right? It's going to be fun. My sister, one of them, had already taken a DNA test. I didn't remember that at the time, but she had come to a Christmas with her results and passed them around. And it was not interesting because it was everything we expected it to be. The genealogy was done. We all knew all of that stuff. I had taken the book of genealogy with me to France and went right to where we're from, this beautiful farm in the La Perche region. It's got our surname. That's what it's called. And literally, these 5 brothers emigrated to Canada, and that's where they came from. And I went there, and they tried to sell me the farm, literally. And I, I was so close to buying it. I wanted my siblings to go in with me to be a summer home, and they wouldn't do it. I was the only one interested in the family history. And this is from my father's side. I've always loved history, and genealogy is just more history. So all that connection was really important to me. And yeah, she came back with her results, and they were, oh, hey, French on this side, French on that side, French all the way back until, you get so far back, there's no records. And it was obvious. So it was very underwhelming when she had her results. But I hadn't thought about that when I was spitting in the tube. And I had chosen 23andMe because reading about them, 23andMe had all the health stuff. And I wanted to know, it said it was going to tell you if mosquitoes do come after you more than other people. And I was like, aha, I've been saying this my whole life. I can't go outside in summer. I just can't go outside. I get bombarded. So I'm like, I'm going to prove it. Science is going to prove this. So off it went. And I really wasn't chomping at the bit, waiting for it because I knew most of the results. I just thought it would be kind of cool. And then it came back, and I was by myself. My husband works away for a week at a time. So he's home for a week and gone for a week. And of course, he was gone that week. And it said, not that this is a new story to anybody, but it said that this French kid was 89% Irish/British Isles and a teeny amount French. And I just felt like a Hollywood special effect had happened. Like my chair was falling through down a deep well, and me with it, and nothing made any sense. And I thought maybe I was going to pass out. And then I got really angry and launched into this big speech about, this is fraudulent. This is a lie. This is just them taking money. And my last name, my married name is very English. And I thought that's what they had looked at and just said a lie. And I was going to sue them. I was going to sue them so much. And right before I called a lawyer, I decided I needed a second opinion to prove my case. This all sounds so silly now. So I sent for an ancestry test, and I really was anxious this time, and sent it away and waited and waited. And I checked that thing obsessively. And then one day it finally came in, and yeah, still Irish. And I think I reacted more crushed this time because it was the second attempt, Now it's real. I was just absolutely devastated and shocked. I didn't know what to do. I could not form whole thoughts, really. The first thing that just kept hitting me in the head was, how can I not be French? And as an aside, I remember hearing your story on Everything's Relative. So I know about the French, the loss of the French is familiar. The city I grew up in is very French Canadian. It's just all I knew. it's something you can't even describe. I can't describe it, what you know, what you've been saturated in since birth. It's everything familiar. I moved overseas. I didn't move to France. I moved to Britain. So being in another culture really stood out to me. That, we all speak English, sort of, but it is a very different culture over there. And the same thing goes with this. Like, I know how to be a French Canadian American. I don't know how to be Irish. I don't know anything about that. And it's absolutely no offense to the Irish. I just don't know anything about it. That loss was really hard. And I think it deflected the fact that somehow my family's not what I thought it was. I have to figure this out. 23andMe had said it was this Irishness was 1 to 2 generations from me. And it can't be my mother, right? It's just not possible. So it's not my grandmother's, my God. I mean, not possible. Then I started to look at the matches on Ancestry, and my sister was there. And that's when I suddenly remembered, oh, yeah, she had taken a test, her and her daughter. And it said close relative. I thought, well, yeah. But soon turned into, it said first cousin. And then my mind went insane with ideas of what that could be. We made up so many weird stories that that didn't include my mother, possible ways that this could possibly just be. And who's the Irish person here in this ocean of French? And at some point, my sister's match turned into half sister. It was all very quick, but it like Ancestry figured it out and decided it was half sister. And I lost it again. Not that I had ever got it back. I spent months trying to work it out, trying to understand centimorgans. And I finally figured out that, parent A or parent 1 is my mother, because I saw some matches with the right surnames. And then my other parent was some Irish guy. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't make sense of it. I think the emotions were blocking my ability to understand anything, really. I cried a lot. I raged a lot. I stared into space a lot. I don't think I heard anybody's whole sentences for months. And then my husband found that there was such a thing called search angels, and they might help me. So I went back onto Facebook, which I had quit years prior because I hated. And I got into a group of search angels who took my case. And all I had to do was wait for an angel to be available. And I thought I'd wait months, but I waited 48 hours and sent her all the information. She put me on their Facebook support group, which I thought was cool and helpful. And I had been researching. So by this time, I had heard the term NPE. I had found your podcast. I was learning more, but I didn't know if that's what my story was yet. In 48 hours, another 48 hours, she said, I found your biological father. And I think I almost fell off the bed that I was sitting on. I have a biological father? I mean, what? My father died in 1975. I was 8. What do you mean? She had found him. He was deceased. He died in 2015. But she found his obituary. He lived a quarter of a mile from where that ranch-style house where my family had lived, so about a half a mile from where I grew up. He was in the same men's club as my father. There was a picture of him. He had a bunch of kids. Really, it turns out he had 3 kids from 2 marriages, but he had a bunch of stepkids as well. that were all listed there as his kids. So a kind of a big family where words like step and half didn't mean anything. It was just family. He'd been married for 53 years, and it said he liked to play pool and that he was a member of whatever the nearest church. And I think I just sat blinking for a day, just sat there not comprehending what we were doing. How did I now understood how my mother knew him, because he was in my father's club, weird little sort of dive bar looking club that I used to drive by all the time. I lived right near there. I was shattered. It was a real existential crisis. Who am I? How has everything been a lie for my entire life? And then the anger at my mother, deceased mother, but still, for lying, for all the abuse. It was like a new lens had been put in front of my eyes. And instead of just seeing mom was hard, mom was hard, but now she's gone, it became everything she'd ever said got put through this new filter and made a little bit of sense. It still wasn't right, but it made some sense. I was different. I I was different. By the time I was an adult, I stopped hating that "you're different" thing and started to really appreciate it. I started to see, actually, I am really different. I'm I'm nicer, softer, what used to be called overly sensitive. Well, I'm sensitive. I'm kind. I don't kill bugs. I will walk bugs down the road to put them in the woods so that they don't come back, but they're not harmed. I just caught a mouse the other day and put it outside, and because it's cold and snowy out, I gave it all this stuff so it could build a new home. I mean, I'm a little overly nice. I won't harm anything. That's why I don't go outside in summer, because of the mosquitoes. I won't kill them. Everybody in the world just went, "Oh my God, you have to kill them." But I won't. I just run. You can outrun a mosquito. Ticks. Ticks come close to being killed. I just really avoid. I live in the woods. I don't go in the woods. I like to look at the woods from here. I just won't do that kind of harm that comes out of their mouths if they're conscious, then they're saying something harsh. And I'm more creative than they are. I can't stay out of my own art studio. That was not allowed when I was a kid. Not at all. Not one bit. I was told I wasn't creative. Well, how do you know if a kid's creative or not if you won't let them have, crayons or something? So I found that out just a few years ago, really, and now it won't stop. I just can't stop, and none of them are like that. They're very mathy, and I'm absolutely not. All of that difference is now my superpower. I really am delighted to find myself different. And I already knew that, of course, but now I get it, Now I'm the Irish one in the family. And in order to offset that feeling of loss of the French, and it's not completely gone because I am partly French, but to offset that weird hole feeling that I suddenly had when my ethnicity went in this hole and just left, I've done a lot of studying. I'm like, I don't know anything about this whole Irish thing. So let's find out. And I'll never be a kid again to be saturated in it. And I don't have enough years, however, old I ever get. I don't have enough years to learn it like I learned the French, naturally. So I put some extra effort into it. I've read a lot of books. I'm constantly Googling stuff about it, and on Google Earth, walking through the villages where my great grandparents came from and stuff like that. And we make a lot of Irish recipes off of Pinterest, and it's great. And I feel really happy about it. Now, it's the first real devastation that I felt, and it's the first one to go away and become a joy. And I'm really proud to be newly Irish. And it's no offense to the French, but it feels good, actually. But all of that new lens on my mother has made me, well, it's made me really angry, and it's made me really upset. It's freed me from her opinion of me, from her treatment of me, from her lies. It's freed me from the part that didn't come out of her mouth but became ingrained in me, my opinion of me, my belief that I wasn't creative, that I was dumb, that I was wrong. All this stuff I've carried through adulthood. I didn't know I was. I didn't think I was. I would have hated the idea that I agreed with her on anything, but I did. I did. I caught myself. I don't know what I was doing. I was like brushing my hair or something in the mirror. This is like a year ago. I mean, I'm not just an adult, I'm pretty old, to be suddenly realizing I'm brushing my hair and I'm in my head, I am insulting myself incessantly. I'm like, why are you even bothering with hair like yours? It's not like anybody cares. It's not like you're a great beauty. These are exact words from her mouth. And yet I'm doing it in my head and I didn't even know it. And I don't do it anymore because everything she said was a lie. Everything. And so that was two. And I feel great freedom from it. I feel great freedom from trying to fit into this family, this square, what is it, square peg, round hole thing. I don't have to do that. I am a square peg. I am an Irish peg. I am absolutely different. And I love it. And that's freedom. It's just all good. I mean, the loss of my father's side, he's still in my tree on Ancestry because I wouldn't delete it because that was daddy. I only got him for 5 years, really. 8 when he died, but 5 when he left and stopped seeing me. And I still don't know exactly why he didn't see me. Maybe he found out that I wasn't his. Maybe she screamed it at him during some fight, which sounds like her. Well, we don't know. We're not going to find that out. They're all gone. But that was daddy, and his mother was Nana, even though I never really saw any of them again either. I won't take it down. So that is still my daddy. But I had this biological father guy who I could have known. I could have known him my whole life. And when I came back to live in the United States, I could have known him for 4 years, but she took it to her grave. She kept her own little secret. And in retrospect, she used to say weird things to me, like you're the mailman's daughter, which is, an old way of saying, your father's not your father, but my father was a mail carrier. So I just found that confusing. I didn't know what the heck she was talking about. And she used to just drop weird little Easter egg type things that made no sense that do now. And I think in her kind of twisted mind, she was having a good time keeping a secret from this little girl, enjoying the fact that I didn't understand what she was talking about. That's pretty narcissistic. It's pretty psycho, actually. And it makes me really mad. But there's all these little things I can remember now that now click into place. And I talked about them a bit in that Facebook support group with the angels. But I found the community idea excellent, the podcast, and just the idea that it's okay, it's not just me, right? It's so many of us. But I started to get a lot of pushback in the support group because I was angry. I was angry at my mother. And all I ever heard was, don't be angry, or, but you can't be angry at her. She's your mother. I thought, oh, wait a minute. I'm glad if people have that relationship with their mother, but I did not.
Yep.
And we might all be NPEs, but we do not have the same story. And this should be all about including everyone with all their stories. And when you're new to this, if you're angry for being lied to your whole life, then you get to be angry. Anger is not a bad emotion. There's no such thing as a bad emotion. There just isn't. There's one that get a bad rap. The only thing that's bad about emotions is if you cling onto them for the rest of time. If you were giddy for the rest of time, they would lock you up. It is not okay to stay one way forever. You have to, evolve. I believe that nature will tell you when it's time to, stand back a little bit from whatever emotion that is, including bitterness. I remember a therapist telling me once, bitterness is just an emotion. Just don't keep it. Like anything else, just don't keep it. I lost my husband in 2006. And I would say the same thing about grief. Don't force it. Do not force it. Nature knows how to do this. Nature will bring you out of this first horrible, raw feeling into the next feeling. It will open you up as it deems it safe for you. And it's the exact same thing with this. This is a kind of grief, really. And I just really resented being told, oh, she's your mother. Oh, yeah, she's just lovely. She was lovely, thanks. And that I should not be angry. And that's just not allowed. Not allowed. It's like telling somebody with clinical depression, just snap out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just turn that frown upside down. Just don't be.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't. I get to be angry at the woman that called me stupid and ugly and just worthless and robbed me of two fathers. I get to be angry. I won't be angry. I refuse to be angry forever. I refuse to think about her for the rest of time, but I'm not there yet. And I'll get there when I get there, when nature says to get there. Nature and a lot of therapy tells me to get there. So I backed away from the support group. Oh, the other thing that I was getting in trouble for in the support group was that I wasn't instantaneously reaching out to my half siblings, the surprise ones. Even the angels were like, we can help you write the letter. I'm like, I can't form a sentence right now in my brain. I don't want to reach out to, who are you talking about? Like, no, calm down. Like, no, I'm not ready. And they were pretty much shoving it down my throat. And then on the support group, so this is a closed group. These are just clients of these angels. They're like, why haven't you reached out yet? Like, because I'm not going to, because I calm down. And then one person said they weren't reaching out to their surprise family, but if the surprise family ever spit in a tube and sort of opted in, they would find them, and then we would see what happened. And I thought, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you. The one person out of all these people. And that's what I'm going to do. But I still got a lot of pushback for that. And so did they. Just a lot of, no, you should reach out right now. And listen, I listened to the podcast. There are so many beautiful stories, and there are really rotten ones where people acted terribly, and the rejection is fierce and ugh, just when you don't need more pain.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much in the middle there. But it's more than a fear of rejection for me. It's just, I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need more family. Yes, I've had a really bad experience with that. And this one could be nice. I did Facebook stalk them a little, of course, but it did not make me feel good. It made me feel very wary. And the more time went on, the more every time a new match came into my email, I jumped a yard in the air. I just, oh my God, it could be one of them. It could be one of my siblings or somebody close who will figure it out. And I thought, if I'm living in such dread, why don't I take that down and make my DNA private? And I have. And I got a lot of almost hysterical pushback from the group for saying it. So I left the group. That and the fact that two other members at different times asked the group, what do I do now that I've found out I'm the product of a sexual assault? And I didn't really have any words of advice, but I wanted to give them some love and support for this just extra level of horrid feelings that they're having. And they were deleted. Their posts were deleted due to both Facebook and group or guidelines. And I thought, no, this is a closed group with no children. They're being punished for using the R word. And I thought, no, you can't punish people for this being their story. They needed us. This is what we're here for. It's a support group. And they got deleted. And I just left. I just can't, that's not support. And the toxic positivity of don't be upset, don't be angry. It's just not support. And there was another group that I was in that was a little less like that, but I realized I just don't need this. And I hate Facebook so much that I left. I'm still technically, I haven't deleted anything, but I just don't go there anymore. But I did find a therapist. It took me a year and a half, but I found a trauma therapist. And she knows about the NPE stuff. I told her. She didn't know what that was. She didn't know anything about it. She didn't know it was a thing like most. So that's something that the world really needs help with. They need to figure this out. There's so many of us across, and there's going to be more. And then they say maybe it'll start tapering off a little bit as people stop lying so much about it. But the psychiatric world needs training, and then there needs to be real world support groups, and there isn't one in my state or the region. So there's really nothing specifically for that. So she knows, but we haven't talked about it in depth yet because we're busy dealing with all the trauma. But it has been really good. So I limit myself in as far as the community goes. I'd like to go to the conference, one of the conferences at some point, but the support groups don't work for me because I don't feel included. But the podcasts have been everything. Thank you. I can't thank you enough for just the first day I found out what NPE was. I found your podcast and dove in. And it's been so great. I don't know how many times I've cried or burst into yes in the middle of somebody's episode, or, just go back and play it again, because like, oh my God, I should write stuff down, but I'm always, up to my eyes in paint or something when this happens, because people say so many profound, amazing things. And I feel so much empathy for all of them, even if the story's got nothing to do with mine. And when they find their, biological father, and he's been looking for them forever, or he, buys them some cute gift because like they were just born. It's just so heartwarming and wonderful, but it's not my story. And the podcast is really the only sense of community that I have. But it's calmed down a lot. I mean, it's been, it hasn't been that long, but it's over this amount of time, it has really evolved a lot from just thinking about it every second to not thinking about it much at all, except for I've got a lot of Celtic stuff in my house. And I went out for St. Patrick's Day for the first time ever last St. Patrick's Day. I never did that. I used to resent St. Patrick's Day. I used to think, oh, yeah, I'll go out for St. Patrick's Day when you go out for Bastille Day. How about that? You walk around with a weird French looking hat and say, everybody's French today. And there I was out at a bar called Murphy's, wearing green and having a great time, telling everybody that I was newly Irish and trying to get them to figure it out. And we are talking about going to Ireland for a trip fairly soon. We haven't really planned it, but I want to drink from the holy wells right near where my great grandmother came from. And there's one great grandmother I've really stuck to for some reason. I feel like maybe she's the one that was pulling me to look into it. You're in the wrong tribe. You should be in our tribe. You're one of us. She's really cool. I've got a picture of her from Ancestry, and I've been to her grave. She's buried in the city I'm from, and I know what village she emigrated from. So I want to go there and breathe the air and bring some seeds or something back from her village. And I'm sure the cemetery will hate me for it, but just drop them right there and see if they grow. It's been something to that, and creating the tree for that side has been a real joy and a project that has helped me with the emotional part of it. And the therapy has helped me with the emotional part of it. It's at some point turned into a positive instead of a devastation. And I didn't do it. Nature did that. So I would say to anybody who's just found this out and Googled it and found out the term NPE and then found the podcast, just all you have to, and I say this about grief, all you have to do is breathe. You do not have to reach out right now. You do not have to figure it out right now. You do not have to do anything except breathe and wait. And you really will find your correct path, and you're going to be okay.
Amy, I think we really needed to hear your experience today. There was a lot of very important aspects to your story I was nodding along with and agreeing with completely. Would you be willing to let people contact you if they had any questions or wanted to reach out to you?
Yes, that would be fine. My email address is probably the best way. It is ASLINGSBY at tds.net.
Amy, thank you so much for being willing to let people reach out to you. And your story was hard to hear, what little Amy went through as a child, but really important. And I was just riveted. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your experience.
Thank you. There's no words that I have to thank you enough for this podcast and for the empathy that you give everyone. It's been great. Thank you.
These stories are here for us to identify with. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, email npestories@gmail.com. You do not have to give any identifying information. If you are an NPE and would like to share your story, I'd like to hear from you. Subscribe to this podcast to hear more. Come, heal with us.